5 sinister true horror tales. Discover the spine-chilling secrets of haunted Halloween nightmares. The air in Maplewood had grown thick with untold fears. The Anderson family had always welcomed October with arms wide open. Yet this Halloween felt different. Lingering shadows spooked their cozy home, and spine-tingling whispers danced along the autumn winds. Emma and Jake, innocent and joyful in their craft of spellbinding decorations, unknowingly set the stage for dread. While neighbors reveled in the holiday spirit, the Andersons could sense a crackling unease behind their cheerful facade. It all started with that unmarked car parked just down the street. The sun dipped below the horizon, and the night crept in, dark and heavy. It lingered like a predator stalking its prey. The windows of their home rattled with every gust of wind. Sounds hidden beneath layers of dread began suffocating the laughter of parents and children alike. They shared nervous glances, but the rumors surrounding Matt, the once heroic neighbor, only twisted the knot in their stomachs tighter. A child had vanished from their suburb, and though Matt had rallied the community to search, whispers suggested he was more than a kind-hearted soul. As days slipped through October's fingers like dead leaves, fright seeped into the Andersons' daily life. Familial rings of laughter morphed, becoming distant echoes. Lights flickered, panic strung across their hearts. Each erratic pulse made their skin crawl. The house, previously a haven of whimsical ghosts and glowing pumpkins, turned into a wretched prison of shadows and whispered fears. It felt like a party crashing into nightmares, intrinsic and suffocating. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. Then the night of terror escalated. Emma and Jake vanished. Their innocent giggles no longer echoed through the house that felt more like a tomb. Heart rates skyrocketed as Michael and Lisa sprinted through their once-beloved neighborhood, every footfall pounding like a war drum. Each shadow felt alive, glimmering with menace. Matt, the neighbor with a too-friendly grin, became the harbinger of panic. They dodged between streets that once felt like home, now disorienting chasms of dread and despair. A dread began to settle, penetrating deep into their bones. Could they confront the truth lurking in the neighborly smiles of a man who had once held their community together in a time of crisis? Whispers hinted at a tale that connected him to the very disappearance that shattered their small town. It felt as if the ground was giving way beneath them, like they were teetering on the edge of a great horror, a revelation more horrid than they could fathom. As they searched alleys and abandoned playgrounds, the chilling winds seemed to taunt them. The moon hung low, its light twisting like a false promise. Finally, a sinister laugh echoed, cutting through the night like a knife, sending shivers crawling up their spines. It was unmistakably Emma, weaving in and out of the shadows. Just when they dared to hope, dread fell upon them like an ancient curse. You should never have trusted your neighbors. The night thickened around Michael and Lisa as they stood frozen in disbelief beneath the skeletal branches of the old oak tree. The sound of Emma's laugh seemed to twist and tumble through the air, carrying assurances wrapped in malevolence. Their hearts thundered. It felt like the ground had been pulled from beneath them, leaving only darkness and fear. "Emma!" Lisa cried, desperation cracking her voice. "Where are you?" But shadows answered her silence, heavy and suffocating. The laughter transformed, morphing into a mocking echo that ricocheted across the empty street. Michael clenched Lisa's hand, his knuckles pale as he scanned their surroundings, prey to the creeping dread encircling them. "Let us follow it," he said, though uncertainty snaked through him. Did they really want to go deeper into this nightmare? The words sent a shiver through Lisa, but she nodded resolutely. They moved toward the sound, leaving the safety of their yard behind, navigating the descent of the night, where light felt tainted and every glance turned into a threat. With each hesitant step, the world grew darker, every shadow threatening to unravel into something sinister. Past the swings that creaked eerily in the wind, they reached the mouth of a grim alley, painted in the smell of wet leaves and rot. The laughter faded, plunging into a deliberate stillness that almost felt alive. As they ventured further, a flickering light caught Michael's eye. The old garage at the end of the alley emitted a soft glow, pulsing like a heartbeat. "Should we?" Lisa's voice trembled, her instincts screaming at her to turn back. But something, a mix of hope and fear, compelled them forward. Together, hand in hand, they approached the garage, its paint peeling, revealing discolored wood hidden beneath. The air thickened around them, wrapping like an invisible shroud. Inside, the beams of weak light illuminated unsettling shapes. Piles of discarded toys, cracked dolls with hollow eyes that seemed to watch, judging. Amidst the mess, a soft, familiar voice floated through the inky gloom. "Mommy, help!" It was unmistakably Emma. Terror shot through them like ice as they stumbled deeper into the depths of the garage, tearing through the shadows, chasing the ghostly call. "Emma!" Lisa screamed, her heart pounding. "Please, where are you?" The last shadow fell away, revealing a chilling scene. Emma and Jake sat cross-legged on the cracked concrete floor, surrounded by a circle drawn in chalk, adorned with strange symbols that twisted and turned like lost souls. Their eyes were wide, but filled with a strange calmness, a serene absence that crawled beneath Michael and Lisa's skin. Behind them, the door creaked ominously. They spun to see Matt, the neighbor who had once been a refuge, now a grim specter shrouded in darkness. A twisted grin spread across his face as he leaned against the frame, arms crossed, watching them with a predatory glint. "You found them, but you should never have ventured here," he said slowly. Then everything changed. The air thickened again, and the whispers escalated, drowning out all rational thought. The symbols on the ground pulsed with energy, and suddenly the chalk turned bright with vibrant color, as if responding to a hidden incantation. "Get away from them." Safety net. Each choice felt like a descent into madness. Just as they forged the thought to act, the shadows surged, ready to claim their sacrifice. Would they rescue their children or seal their own fate? A chill gripped the air as Michael's heart raced. He felt Lisa's fingers slipping against his, trembling and desperate. That circle on the ground glimmered with malicious intent, the symbols intertwining like serpents ready to strike. "Michael, we have to do something." Lisa's voice pierced through the chaos. Her urgency echoed against the garage walls, pushing him into action despite the fear clawing at his throat. Matt stepped closer, his eyes glinting with palpable excitement, like a child witnessing the first fireworks on the 4th of July. "You really think you can break this? They are bound to it now." His words dripped like poison, each syllable curling around them like smoke. The glowing symbols pulsed, and the shadows danced closer, as if drawn by the intensity of their fear. Michael felt the tug at his feet intensify. Another tug, and he released Lisa's hand, his body betraying him as he stumbled forward. "No!" Lisa cried, but there was an overwhelming force, a magnetic pull that threatened to tear them apart. Emma and Jake were eerily still, their expressions frozen in otherworldly calm. "Join us, Mommy, Daddy," they intoned, voices layered and chilling. The laughter returned, warped and more sinister, echoing around them, binding their minds and hearts to the scene before them. It was a nightmare. The distance between them felt insurmountable, a gulf filled with unspeakable horrors. A flash of light caught Michael's breath, a glimmer in the shape of a strange figure, obscured in the shadows. It twisted, long and limber, with eyes that appeared like dark pits drinking in the night. "Don't look at it," Lisa shouted, bolting toward Michael. But the light reached out, crawling across the floor like a living thing, pulling her back, tracing her form as if assessing. Michael's mind raced. He remembered the stories his grandmother told, stories of protection and binding spells. Desperation clawed at him, urging him towards something, anything, that could help. "Grab the chalk," he yelled, pointing toward the scattered pieces that littered the floor. Perhaps an incantation could be reversed, a spell undone. They had to disrupt the energy. "Emma, Jake, look at me. Come to me," Lisa shouted, stepping into the fray with renewed determination. But the moment was fleeting. Matt laughed, a sound dripping with malice. The air became frigid. You think they're coming back to you? They belong to the darkness now. You've played right into it. With a sudden resolve, Michael lunged for a piece of chalk, desperately drawing a line on the ground, countering the vile symbols with straight, firm strokes. No, that's not true. They have to listen. Emma, Jake. As he cursed the twisted shadows binding them, he felt the grip of fear squeezing tighter. The circle before him flashed brighter, blinding and consuming, threatening to collapse their fragile reality. But just as he inscribed the final line, the world tilted, and the shadows lashed out, whipping a chill through the air. The garage groaned, echoing Michael's thoughts. Collapse. Collapse. Stop, he shouted, fear morphing into a powerful rage. You will not take them. Suddenly, a deafening silence smothered the space, as if the world held its breath. The eerie glow dimmed slightly, the shadows recoiling. Then, laughter broke the quiet, a chorus of it, weaving through the air like a coiling serpent. Emma and Jake stood, now appearing outside the circle, smiles vacant and eyes glistening black. Daddy, it hurts, Emma whispered, voice cracking. A shudder coursed through Michael, a promise of deception, a chilling warning. Matt stepped forward, a grin stretching wide enough to split his face. You're too late. The bond is anchored in blood. The shadows surged again. The ground shifted, the air filled with a tang of iron, a warning that sunk deep. And then the world twisted. What would they have to sacrifice to reclaim their children? Their journey into madness had just begun. Michael's pulse thundered louder than the distant roar of thunder outside. The darkness pulsed rhythmically, seeming to breathe alongside him, gathering force. He could feel Matt's twisted glee sharpening the edges of his panic. Here, in their garage, where he had tucked away old toys and forgotten memories, shadows had risen to devour everything he cherished. Let them go, Michael screamed at Matt, who simply chuckled, reveling in the impending chaos. Lisa tried to push through the swirling shadows, her outstretched hands trembling. Emma, Jake, she called, desperation tearing at her voice, but it felt like trying to push back a torrential tide. The children didn't respond, their empty eyes fixed on the nothingness before them. Were they there, trapped behind the veil of darkness, or had they already slipped away? The shadows extended, slithering toward Lisa like hungry serpents. Each whispered laugh echoed in Michael's mind, a siren-esque call that urged him deeper into despair. The chalk line flickered, panels of protection gray under the weight of the gathering evil. Make them stop, Lisa cried. Michael could see the resolve in her eyes, mirrored by anguish. She wasn't just fighting for the kids anymore. She was fighting for them. If we break the circle, they might come back, he shouted, though the words were icy against the roiling void. Matt stepped back, his shadow elongating. You think it's that easy? They're not coming back unless you let something go. The suggestion hung like a noose in the air. An idea flickered. It was a terrible thought, festering in the corners of his mind like a bitter weed. What about us? He whispered, the notion tasting foul on his tongue. We could know. Lisa's sharp insistence sliced through the haze of desperation. I refuse to lose you both to this. But every fiber of Michael's being screamed for release. He would sacrifice anything to save their children. And they both knew it. From deep within the tumultuous shadows, figures began to emerge. Not just Emma and Jake, but other faces too. Flickers of forgotten memories danced in and out, merging with the darkness, visages of family and old friends, all twisted into caricatures of glee and despair. Join us, their voices churned like a winter wind, chilling Michael to his marrow. Fight it, Lisa shouted, but Michael felt her grip loosen. The enchantment was strong, pulling at their very essence, blinding him with temptation. What if they did join? What could they become together? He dug his heels into the ground, panic turning to adrenaline. He could hear nothing but the mounting chant, the chorus of the damned beckoning him closer. Even the children seemed swayed, their mouths stretching into unnatural smiles, the black void in their eyes swirling and shifting like stars trapped in a turbulent night sky. "Stop!" he yelled again, focusing on the flickering chalk line. "If we break it, it might hurt them or us, I don't know." But desperation surged. Before he realized it, he was drawing another line. A line meant to sever the connection. The circling shadows seemed to hiss, recoiling from the fresh glyphs, as if they were drawn back by an unseen force. Then came a scream, not from Emma or Jake, but from somewhere deep within the shadows, a tortured sound that sent chills down his spine. Suddenly, the entire room trembled, as though a great beast was stirring beneath them. "Michael!" Lisa's voice was a lifeline, but it was also a warning. In that moment, he understood the magnitude of their decision. They stood at the edge of a precipice, and any move could plunge them into darkness. But it was too late to turn back now. The chalk drew his hand, his heart racing with fraught determination. He could almost feel the weight of the children's souls pressing down on him, urging him onward. The shadows swirled faster now, howling with fury. They would have to face Matt, to confront the true horror waiting in the expanding void. "Together," he shouted to Lisa, but then as he met her eyes, the flicker of doubt shimmered behind them. "What if joining them means we lose each other?" Her gaze was filled with worry, flooded with a sense of hopelessness. With a fleeting moment, Michael understood. There was something more at play here, something horrific yet enticing. "They must decide I can't lose them. I can't lose you." Just as he began to write the final glyph, everything shifted, and suddenly, it wasn't just shadows anymore. In the distance, faint whispers grew louder. "Join us, become a bond forged in blood," was echoing. What they were willing to sacrifice would soon reveal the unfathomable horrors waiting to unfold. Michael braced himself, gripping the chalk tight as the darkness surged. They were running out of time, and then they could hear it. A slow, rhythmic chant building in tempo, the echo of fate closing in around them. What dark revelations awaited them when the final choice was made? The shadows roared with rage, swirling violently. The room shook, pulsing with a malevolent energy that threatened to tear them apart. Michael felt each flicker of the chalk line as if it were a heartbeat, barely keeping the darkness at bay. Lisa stood beside him, her face pale, her eyes wide with terror. "Michael, please," she pleaded, her voice wavering. "We can't let this happen." But the whispers crescendoed, becoming a thunderous choir, chanting desires that wrapped around his mind like a vice. Join us," they called, the echoes vibrating through his skull. It felt so close now, a choice that hovered just beyond his fingertips. Matt moved closer, his smile ravenous, every word laced with venom. "You think you can save them? You think love can shield you? Sacrifice is the key, it always has been." His voice dripped with malice, wrapping around Michael like a hunter's noose. Michael's heart raced. Every fiber of his being knew what lay beyond that chalk circle. It beckoned him to come closer, to lose himself among the shadows. But then he looked at Lisa. Her eyes burned with determination mixed with fear. "Not without you. I want to go alone," he shouted, shaking her from her reverie. Yet the shadows writhed, snaking around their feet as if trying to draw them in. The air thickened, saturated with a creeping dread. The children's faces, once sweet and innocent, now morphed into ghostly figures, their hungry eyes reflecting the abyss behind Matt. They no longer resembled Emma and Jake. Instead, they were echoes of their lost selves. The weight of the moment crashed over them, and he could see doubt creeping into Lisa's eyes. They couldn't mix their souls with this darkness. "We must fight," he urged, the resolve rising from his core. With renewed determination, Michael turned back to the chalk on the ground and frantically continued the last glyph. Each stroke felt like a heartbeat slamming against the walls of an impending doom. The shadows hissed, a vile wind whipping around them, thwarting his efforts. "Michael!" Lisa shouted, terror breaking through desperation. "I can't hold on. The shadows, they're pulling me." He gripped her hand tighter, the panic in her eyes igniting something in him. "We can't give up. You have to let them come back, push them back." She nodded, but her voice faltered as the whispers intensified. What if it's us that gets swallowed? Then we fight together, he roared, his voice echoing against the chaos. Suddenly, a force burst forth from the shadows, crashing into them like waves, and Michael felt a piercing chill sweep his body. The area around them pulsed dangerously, tongues of darkness licking at their heels. Let it go, Michael, Matt hissed, his form flickering as if caught between worlds. Just step back, they'll never return. I can show you paradise more than you can ever wish for. Paradise. The word dripped with sickening sweetness, tantalizing and terrifying. Nausea twisted in Michael's gut. What has paradise cost you? He shouted, defiantly drawing another glyph as shadows bled around him. What do you want? Nothing more than despair? Surrender. Came a chorus of hollow laughter, a cacophony of lost souls drowning in the void around them. The walls of the garage began to fade, grit and debris dissolving into darkness. The shadows converged, boiling together into one massive form. Michael's sanity hung by a thread. This is not just a choice between us and them. It is everything we loved, everything we fought for. He drew another line, fury mixing with the chalk dust, the swirling shadow hissing in rage. Lisa slid closer, their hands secured in desperate unity even as the void threatened to tear them apart. With a final stroke, the air crackled like static. The glyph glimmered, shining against the growing mass of darkness. Everything stilled. The shadows halted, trembling, recoiling from the circle. Michael held his breath, staring into the void, the faces of his children flitting in and out like dying stars struggling to shine. Then Matt's laughter erupted, chilling and cruel. You dare defy your fate? Together, Lisa said fiercely, we will choose love over despair. A howl erupted from the swirling mass, shaken, furious. But as Michael prepared for the inevitable backlash, a blinding light flared, carving through the darkness. The shadows wailed in agony, clawing backwards as if caught by a whirlwind. Don't stop, Lisa screamed as the light surged. But at that moment, Michael's heart sank. The light revealed something lurking in the depths, something ancient and terrifying that reveled in the chaos. What could that be? As the darkness began to swirl back in anger, Michael knew they were about to confront something far worse than Matt. Get ready, he shouted to Lisa, the shadows curdling around them once more. What waited for them in that unfathomable darkness? A scream pierced the air as the light flickered ominously. Something was emerging from the depths, a shape writhing, coiling through the tendrils of darkness, and Michael's breath hitched. The contours were indistinct, but it was undeniably monstrous. A gaping maw formed within the figure, filled with jagged teeth and a vile hunger that made Michael's stomach turn. Stay close, he shouted to Lisa, though the command felt weak against the spinning chaos that surrounded them. The shadows shrieked, and those once innocent faces of his children became frantic, twisted distortions, drifting like marionettes caught in a storm. The light pulsed feverishly, revealing glimmers of what lay within the shadows, a pulsating heart, beating with each clamor of despair. It was a mocking reflection of their fear, a ghastly echo of everything they held dear. Michael, Lisa cried, her voice straining against the howls of the abyss. What do we do? What if it takes us both? He felt it too, the bone-deep terror that slid down his spine like ice. The urgency clawed at his mind. Each second felt like an eternity. Focus, Lisa. We have to hold the circle. He didn't know if they could withstand what was coming, but they had to try. The massive shape unraveled, bringing forth nightmarish forms, creatures splattered with the stain of despair. They lifted hands clawed with longing, reaching toward the light, the chalk line, and towards them. The whispers intensified, a cacophony of tormented souls calling to them. Join us, we won T. Michael shouted back, drawing another glyph, grounding himself in resolve as the symbols began to glow with a fierce power, a shield against the encroaching horror. From somewhere deep in the mass, Matt's figure shifted once more. You don't realize what's at stake. This is your fate. You can't hope to escape. His mocking laughter bounced off the walls, taunting them like a storm of chilling wind. The shadows curled around them, wrapping like thick fog just ready to choke them. Lisa's grip slackened slightly. Michael, it's too much. I can feel them trying to pull us down, then we pull them back. He felt a surge of adrenaline, a desperate strength flooding through him as he tightened his hold on the chalk line. With each new glyph brought to life, the whirl of darkness responded with greater rage. They craved surrender. They craved weakness. Each stroke felt heavier, the air thickening, vibrating against his skin. He could almost hear the cries of his children mingling with the shadows, urging him to rest, but he couldn't. Not now. Suddenly, the ground shuddered, splintering under their feet. The darkness shrank momentarily, recoiling but then surged forward with renewed strength. Shadows morphed into twisted limbs, lunging at him, seeking to eradicate the hope growing between him and Lisa. "Don't look," Michael yelled, forcing himself to keep his eyes straight ahead, focusing on the symbols he was creating. "Just hold on." But as he glanced to Lisa, her face reflected terror, and despair bloomed in her eyes. "We can't hold them back forever, Michael." The words struck him like a physical blow, resonating deep within. He felt the walls of their fragile reality beginning to crack, tendrils of darkness reaching over and through the chalked barrier. What awaited them if they failed? The terrible weight of that question crashed down with a heavy sense of inevitability. As the shadows thundered back, something shifted deep inside the massive form, something ancient and wicked. Its laughter rippled through the air, a sinister melody that shook Michael to his core. "Foolish mortals, your hope is your undoing." With one last desperate stroke, the glyph flared up brighter than before. The shadows shrieked again, but the ground under them quaked with impending doom as the monstrous figure unleashed its full fury. "Michael!" Lisa screamed. In that heartbeat, a dreadful darkness spilled over the light, suffocating it, twisting into a sinister void. As the chaos erupted, Michael's world spun into oblivion. What would break through the darkness? Before them, what horrors awaited in that unfathomable abyss? The void swallowed them. It was an abyss of suffocating silence, a cold that seeped into their bones, dragging them down into an endless, dark chasm. Michael gasped, terror clawing at the edges of his resolve. He could no longer see Lisa beside him, her familiar presence consumed by the shadows. Panic surged as he reached desperately into the thick blackness. "Lisa!" His voice echoed, swallowed by the emptiness. No answer. The only sounds were the sinister whispers that wrapped around him like a noose, murmuring, beckoning. Join us, join us." It was a litany of anguish begging for release, the haunting remnants of lost souls abandoned to despair. Summoning every ounce of strength, Michael forced himself to breathe. He felt the chalk circle beneath his feet, though its brightness had dimmed. The glyphs were fading, their protective energy waning like the last flickers of a dying flame. "I want let it take us," he growled, anger pushing back against the encroaching terror. Focusing on the last glyph he'd drawn, he called upon the power nestled within him, praying it was enough. With an urgent wave of his hand, he attempted to reactivate the symbols, pouring all his hope and fear into the motion. A faint shimmer responded, but it was meager against the overwhelming dark. "Get back!" A voice boomed amid the gloom, sharp and furious. It was Matt. Michael's heart raced. "Matt, is that you?" "Of course it's me. You never know when to quit, do you? Just like your pathetic attempts at saving her." His taunts were like daggers, each word struck with venom. "She will join us, Michael. Is her fate just like the others?" A flicker of doubt burgeoned in Michael's chest. The fear of losing Lisa consumed him, and visions of their laughter echoed in the hollow darkness. He envisioned her, helpless, being dragged away, her scream caught in the teeth of the monstrosity that loomed somewhere in the murky void. "No," he whispered, his voice breaking. "Embrace it." Matt's laughter intertwined with the grotesque sounds of the shadows, mingling into a discordant symphony of derision and madness. "Never." Michael shot back, unwilling to surrender to the well of despair clawing at him. He clenched his fists, feeling the chalk beneath his fingers as he created another symbol. This one a desperate attempt to channel the energy flickering from the remnants of the previous glyphs. Sweat dripped from his brow, every inch of him straining against the darkness. Suddenly, a crimson light surged from somewhere deep within the shadows, illuminating grotesque faces twisted in eternal torment. Michael stumbled backward, his heart racing as the monstrous figure began to take form again. The outlines of its gaping maw revealed rows of jagged teeth that dripped with the essence of regret and malevolence. "Fool!" the darkness hissed. "You cannot save her, your love is your curse." With a roar that rattled the foundations of the shadowy landscape, Michael activated the glyphs en masse, the glowing symbols flaring one after another in a desperate dance against the oncoming tide of dread. Each pulse of light fought clawing shadows, illuminating the monstrous face just long enough to see agony etched into its features. And then he heard it, a distant but clear scream that pierced the suffocating silence. It was Lisa. "Michael!" He lunged towards the echo of her voice, but the shadows surged forward, rippling like a tide seeking to reclaim what was theirs. They grasped at his ankles and pulled, cold fingers wrapping around his legs in a death grip. "Let her go. I will not let you take her." As he screamed into the weight of despair, the ground trembled. Something was changing, something was awakening, and Michael braced himself, trying to hold on, trying to protect what he cherished from the ancient evil that stirred restlessly in the void. But the darkness was relentless, and the shadows howled with a triumph that sent chills up his spine. What terrifying fate awaited them both, now that the darkness had stirred? And how much longer could he resist its pull? Michael's world faded into a chaotic swirl of dread as the shadows tightened their grip, pulling him down, into a chilling abyss. He fought against them, desperation igniting in his veins as the crimson light flickered and surged around him, pulsing erratically like a heartbeat. The faint glow cast twisted reflections of the monstrous entity, stretching it out towards him like monstrous fingers eager to latch on. "Michael!" The voice pulled at him again, sharp and filled with terror. Lisa's despairing cry echoed louder this time, cutting through the grotesque laughter of the shadows. "Hold on, Lisa. I'll find you. Just breathe." His own heart thundered in his ears, drowning out the sinister hum of the void. The shadows thrashed violently, striking back at his defiance. The more he fought, the harder they pulled, each wave of darkness threatening to engulf him. He grasped the glyphs beneath him, feeling the runes pulse more feebly with each frantic moment. "Light! Give me light!" he screamed, fury and fear intertwining into a powerful incantation. The ghastly figure loomed ever closer, its mouth stretching grotesquely wide. What he thought were mere features morphed into writhing mouths, whispering calamities, a tangled chorus of tortured souls. Join us, they cried, the words resonating deep within the hollow of his chest. "I want tea," he roared, determination surging anew. "You don't own her. I will resist." With a final push, Michael redirected the glyph's energy, willing it to surge through him, channeling his memories of Lisa, her laughter, her warmth, all the moments that had built their bond, fortifying it with strength. In an explosion of light, the glyphs flared brilliantly, piercing the shadows, illuminating the vast darkness like an unwelcome dawn. For a split second, the void recoiled, shadows thrashing backward as the entity's form distorted in the light's glow. It shrieked, a boiling wail of agony and rage that threatened to shatter the very fabric of the dark realm. "Come to me," his voice rang, echoing with newfound authority. "You will not take her." But as he reached out, yearning to grasp her hand, the shadows struck with ferocity. They wrapped around his throat, choking him down, cutting off breath, hopes, and screams. The cold seeped deeper into his bones, a chilling reminder that the void was more than just darkness. It was alive, it was powerful, and it would not be easily defied. Michael, the scream was weaker now, fading into a haunting whisper. Please, empowered by raw, unfiltered fear, he tore through the darkness, pushing with all his might against the crushing dread. He could almost see her now, distant and blurred, a figure lost within the murky depths. The glyphs began to crackle with energy, but despair clawed relentlessly at him. The monstrous face loomed brightly now, each jagged tooth shimmering like malevolent stars in the grim night. "No," he gasped, struggling against sheer hopelessness. The shadows coiled tighter, whispering filthy lies about surrender, promising relief from the agony of fighting. "Join us, embrace the shadows, shut up. Shut up." The words erupted from his mouth, fury fueling his final stand. All at once, the ground erupted in chaos, fissures splitting open, light and dark battling for dominance. The overpowering howl of the entity melded into a frenzy, shaking Michael's resolve and fanning the flames of his fear. But the glyphs, were they weakening? In that moment of vulnerability, he felt the first true pang of hopelessness. "This can't end like this," he muttered frantically, fighting against despair. Then, from the depths, a new sound emerged, the unmistakable sound of laughter. A joyous, mad laughter that burst forth like a dam breaking. His heart sank as he recognized it. It was Matt, mocking him again, having transformed into something far more terrifying than he had ever imagined. "Did you really think you could save her?" The voice taunted from somewhere deep in the shadows, oozing malice. "You're too late. She's already mine." Michael hesitated mid-cast, a sense of dread prickling down his spine. He could feel the darkness shifting, pulsing with life again, hungry for its next victim. Pressing a hand to the ground, he concentrated once more. But in balancing hope against the surge of shadowed laughter, he realized, what if he was fighting not just for Lisa, but against a fate far worse than death? Michael, he felt her slip further away, and the shadows closed in tighter, as he braced himself for what was to come. Would the light he clung to be enough to counter the encroaching dark? Or would he be drawn into the terrifying embrace of shadows forever? The shadows pulsed, hungry and alive, closing in like a vice, squeezing every last glimmer of hope from Michael's heart. His breath came in shallow gasps, stunted by the darkness wrapping around him. The malevolent laughter rang louder, echoing through the void like a cruel joke. "Too late, my friend." Matt's voice twisted and curled like smoke in the air. "You shouldn't have tried to save her. Now, you both belong to me." Michael felt the weight of despair crash down on him, suffocating his resolve. The pulsing light from the glyphs flickered like a candle at the mercy of a storm. With each laugh, the shimmering warmth dwindled, the shadows hissing and coiling tighter around his limbs. "No, I won't give in," he shouted, but the words felt weak, lost in the oppressive air of the void. Then, in the depths of his fear, he envisioned Lisa the last time they laughed together, the warmth of her hand in his. It ignited a spark, a furious energy that he hadn't realized he still possessed. "You're not strong enough to take us both," he roared, harnessing that memory like a weapon. With a surge of will, he pushed against the shadows, forcing his mind into a singular focus. "Light," he commanded, forcing every ounce of emotion into the glyphs beneath him. With a loud crack, they flared with renewed intensity, illuminating the cavernous darkness. "Enough!" Matt's voice warped, fury filling the air as the shadows bucked violently. A storm unleashed. Michael staggered, fighting against the chaos, trying to maintain control. But as the brilliance washed over him, he caught glimpses of something else beyond the malicious laughter. He heard whispers, familiar ones. They cautioned, lulled, seduced. "Michael, my love." Lisa's voice drifted, soft and sweet, cutting through the roaring madness. "Please, come to me. Don't fight it. It's so comforting here." Every fiber in Michael screamed to turn back, to succumb to the seductive pull of her voice. Felt like a tender embrace, a promise of safety. But he knew what that meant. He knew the shadows used what you loved most against you. "I want tea," he gasped, clawing through the onslaught of phantom embraces. "You're not real. Are you sure?" Her laugh echoed with a haunting resonance. "What if I'm the only thing keeping you from true peace?" He could feel the conflict raging inside him, his heart tearing between love and survival. The glyphs flickered dangerously, teetering between light and dark. The abyss yawned, and with it came the terrible image of Lisa consumed, swallowed whole by the shadow. "No! Leave her alone!" he yelled, voice cracking. "You don't own her!" And then, with every ounce of defiance left in his body, Michael pulled the light through him, creating a radiant surge that pressed against the shadows, creating fissures of illumination that chased them away. "Enough of your lies!" he shouted into the void, forcing the energy outward. The shadows screeched, squirming away from the brilliance like cockroaches skittering from the light. The laughter morphed into howls of rage, slashing through the darkness. Just when it seemed he might succeed, a sinister tendril lashed out, catching Michael across the cheek. It burned like icy fire, and he stumbled, vision blurring as the entity's rage crashed over him. "You think you can escape?" With a weak breath, he rallied again, pushing the pain aside. The glyphs ignited one last time, and for a moment, he stood at the eye of a storm of light, unyielding, defiant. But then the shadows twisted, binding themselves around his heart, pulling him back into their cold embrace. "Join us," they whispered, a cacophony of despair and seduction all at once. As the darkness pulled him into its depths, the horrifying realization struck Michael. He wasn't just bound to the shadows. He was their next meal. And within that moment of chaos, as the cold gripped him tight, he sensed Lisa's presence fading, her whispers becoming merely flickering ghosts in his mind. "Michael, save yourself!" The last vestiges of warmth evaporated as the laughter rose again, and all the light flickered out. What remained was a chilling silence, the type that reverberated with the echo of empty laughter lingering in the dark. As darkness enveloped him entirely, Michael felt the rush of panic and desperation welling up. "No, I can't let it end like this." But as the shadows closed in, he could feel something else, a faint whisper in his mind, something lurking just within reach, a hidden truth he hadn't seen yet. What if there was a way out, a way to turn the tide? Could he still fight back, even as the darkness tightened around him? Michael's heart raced as he thought of one final push. If only he could gather just a spark of hope in the suffocating dusk. Michael's world spun violently, shadows clawing at the edges of his sanity. Desperation pressed in on him, threatening to suffocate all hope. He felt the weight of darkness saturate his being, pulling him deeper into its vast nothingness. The last echoes of joy, the sound of laughter, had faded away. But deep within, something flickered. Memories, emotions, his love for Lisa. "Hold on, Lisa!" he shouted into the abyss, the words barely breaking the oppressive gloom. And then, in the depths of his despair, a memory bloomed. Their first date, the warmth of her smile, the day they brought Emma and Jake home. "That's it," he rasped, realization crashing through the waves of terror. This fight wasn't simply against the shadows. It was about love, about everything they had built together. He had to harness that light, and though it felt weak, it was real. Breathing deeply, he mustered every ounce of determination. He reached into the flickering void and grasped all those precious memories like a lifeline. "I will not let you take them," he snarled, pushing against the darkness that sought to consume him. The shadows writhed and shrieked, sensing his newfound resolve. With a flash of will, he found the remaining fragments of chalk at his feet, forming symbols. No, not just symbols. They were a path back to each sacred moment. With determination surging through him, he etched them into the darkness, each stroke burning with the glow of love and defiance. Each symbol unleashed echoes of light, rippling through the void. "Join us!" the shadows clamored, clawing at him, desperate to extinguish his light. "No!" he shouted back, his voice amplified by the wrath coursing through him. With each incantation, light burst forth, illuminating the terrifying visage of the beast before him. For the first time, he could see its eyes, pinpricks of fury and despair. But as the darkness wilted before the radiance, Matt's laughter rang out, chilling and derisive. "Love is a weakness, Michael. Embrace the shadows or lose everything." "Never." His voice cracked with rage. "My love is my strength." The shadows surged forward, but this time he pushed back harder. Straining against the onslaught, he carved glyphs with renewed ferocity. Light erupted in brilliant bursts, scattering the shadows as he called out, "Lisa, wherever you are, I'm coming for you." "Michael." Her voice drifted through the chaos, cracking with a mixture of fear and hope. It stitched the frayed edges of his heart back together. "See?" Matt sneered, eyes narrowing. "You're only driving yourself to madness. They will not return." A gasp erupted from within the shadows as Michael felt the figures of Emma and Jake flicker on the periphery of his vision. It was fleeting, but their presence ignited something fierce in his chest. He would not falter. "Come to me, please," he cried, his voice echoing through the shadows. "Whenever you were lost, we always found each other. Remember our love. Remember who you are." The shadows clawed at him with renewed savagery, but one by one, his memories surged Polaroids of the life they had built, a tapestry woven from laughter and love. He pulled them together, a reservoir of glowing energy fueling his resolve. The walls quaked as he yelled, "You will not take them from me." In a blaze of furious light, the glyphs flared one last time, pushing back against the darkness. In that moment, the garbled voices of the shadows fell silent, their twisted glee momentarily stifled by the light. Michael, her voice, clear and true, cut through the silence, a beacon amidst the chaos. There, amidst the shadows, he caught a glimpse of her. Lisa's figure, though distorted and surrounded by darkness, glowed with the warmth of their shared love, desperate to break free. "We are stronger together," he thought fiercely. And, unyielding, he reached out his hand towards her. In his heart, he felt the tether that bound them surging with life. "Together," he shouted, and in that instant, the glyphs erupted into a brilliant flash of luminescence. The tendrils of darkness recoiled, shrieking in agony as the light began to consume them. "No!" Matt's voice echoed amidst the tumult, rage bursting forth as shadows twisted and turned, unable to withstand the assault. As the light wrapped around Lisa, illuminating her spirit, she grasped Michael's hand. Their connection crackled with energy, warping the very fabric of the void. "Let us finish this," she cried, and together, they pushed forward, the light swirling and radiating around them, seeping into every shadowy crevice. The dark entity wailed, thrashing as it tried to resist, but it was too late now. It was stranded in their brilliance. They drove the radiant light deeper, expelling the shadows that had loomed over their hearts for too long. Then, in one final rush, the shadows fractured. A cacophony echoed through the void as Michael and Lisa poured everything they had into that blinding burst of love and light. And just like that, the entity crumbled. Michael blinked as reality shifted around him, the warmth of dawn breaking through the haze. The oppressive darkness faded, and standing before him was Lisa, Emma, and Jake alive, their eyes sparkling with relief and joy. "Mommy! Daddy!" Emma's voice rang out like music. They rushed together, enveloping into a warm embrace that chased away every lingering shadow. For that splinter of a moment, time stood still as sobs turned into laughter, fear transitioned into joy, the fullness of their bond unmistakably strong. As the sunlight illuminated their faces, Michael looked over his shoulder. He felt the weight of Matta's sinister presence dissipate, reduced to nothing more than a whisper in the breeze. They had fought the darkness and won. Tears welled in his eyes, not from sadness, but from pure relief. Holding his family tight, he realized that love had triumphed over despair. "We made it," he whispered, as his heart swelled with gratitude. But they weren't just free from the shadows. They had reclaimed their lives, stronger and more connected than ever. Finally, as a new day dawned, hope filled Maplewood once again, where laughter echoed and warmth enveloped their home like an eternal embrace. Don't forget, if you enjoyed this thrilling conclusion, subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. You need to subscribe now to stay in the loop. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm because it really helps. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Let's get a discussion going. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. True fans support the channel and make this community grow.